Hello and welcome to Black Dog Knits, everything I've knit so far in 2025. It's been a long year here and it's been a long time since I've last filmed anything, but I figured that it would be a fun way to kind of kick off what I consider the holiday season with a summary of all the knits that I've made so far this year, and so I figured today that I would go through and try on everything that I've made. This year was really the first year that I've done not just winter clothing, but I've also worked on some summer stuff, which I really enjoyed, and so I'm going to break this down by first going through some of the cardigans that I've made, some of the kids things that I've made, and then finally wrap it up and let myself cool down after trying on all these nice warm clothes with some summer knits, and then finally share the accessories that I've made. And so just kind of a brief rundown of what I've been working on this year. I've completed 30 projects. I don't have all of them in hand because I do like to gift knit, and I've given some of them away. And I've been really trying to keep track of how much yarn I've been using, and so far I've used 16,820 yards of yarn, which I'm trying to envision what that would look like, but simply cannot fathom that in my mind, but I thought it was kind of a fun stat to share. So we can start off with what I'm wearing today, or what I'm wearing right now, which is my Beatrix cardigan. I haven't put the button loops on it yet, but I consider something done once I've finished the knitting part of it. I don't know about you, but that's kind of what I consider done. And this is a project that I've been really wanting to do ever since, I'm pretty sure it was my first podcast that I ever filmed, where I mentioned this cardigan and I had seen that aka Nora had made it, and I really liked it. I love the cable design down the side, and it was just something that I thought I would wear a lot. It would be a nice warm garment to wear over layers in the winter, and so I made this actually pretty recently out of Cascade 220 in the color Olive Heather, and it was actually a really engaging knit to make. It looks a lot more complicated, I think, in the design than it really was. Because of all the different components, it actually goes by faster than you might think. And also it's knit on a pretty large, or a relatively large gauge, using a worsted / Aran weight yarn. And so it does go by pretty quickly. It's quite warm. You can see how it fits in the back and everything. And I have not really worn it yet. Like I said, need to put the buttons on it, but once I put the buttons on it, I'm really looking forward to wearing it this winter. So this is the Beatrix cardigan by Gregoria Fibers. Okay, the next thing that I made, or I'm not actually going in chronological order, I'm more just going by category of each thing, but this was actually my first finished object of 2025, and I finished this while I was on winter break, and this is the Eva cardigan by Petite Knit, as many people know. And it's a very simple cardigan, but I really liked it the first time I saw it when I was really trying to dive into different patterns that are available on Ravelry and everything. And I knew I really wanted to make one. I had a total knitting flop and made it with the wrong yarn and gauge and everything, and so I actually ended up frogging that sweater and making it into something else. But I had some yarn in stash, which was this Kelborn Woolen Scout in the color Ocean Heather, and decided that it would be a really good opportunity to make this cardigan out of. As you can see, it is a little short, and I have some more of that yarn, and so my plan is to actually try and extend the body of this, which would mean undoing all the button band and everything, but I think I'll get a lot more wear out of it if I undo that and lengthen it a bit. But I ended up using the the kid size pattern, because I had already made one for my niece, and I just made the largest size and I think did some extra increases instead of buying a whole another pattern. And so this is a very soft cardigan. It's really easy to wear, unlike the last cardigan I was wearing. This is, I would say, a true cardigan versus the last one was more like a jacket. It is warm, but not nearly as warm. The last one I was getting pretty warm in, so I really needed to change. But yeah, once I lengthen this, I think that this is going to be even more of a staple within my wardrobe. So Petite Knit Eva cardigan, and actually so far this year I've only made 2 cardigans, but I do want to make more because they are so versatile. I like the option to be able to wear them open or closed, and you can kind of wear them for a bunch of different things, and so I do like having that versatility within cardigans. Kind of segueing between cardigans and kids' clothes, but I actually made a very adorable Eva cardigan for my cousin's baby, who I think is about 1.5, and I'm supposed to see her at Thanksgiving, and so I made, this is the smallest size, and this is I think the largest size, but I made one for her in Barocco Vintage Baby in the color peach, I think, and this knit up so fast. Baby knits knit just like they knit themselves basically, and it's really soft, and I'm pretty sure it's machine washable, although I should check the label before I give it to them. And yeah, I still have to put the buttons on this too, but I bought them. I'm gonna put these little Purl buttons on them. I don't know if you can see them, but yeah, it's really cute and just very soft and cozy. Hopefully she'll be able to wear it. Hopefully it fits her. Okay, I also made, kind of along the lines of kids knits, is I made my niece a pullover, which I call the beach pullover because of the colors, and I liked the way it looked so much that I decided that I wanted to kind of make a design out of it, which I have yet to continue working on, but I made a smaller baby version for it for a family friend who I've yet to give this to them. But this is made out of Barocco Comfort, which is a 100% acrylic yarn. It's one of the softest yarns you'll ever feel. And it's just a simple raglan design, but I really wanted to use some scrap yarn that I had, and so I decided to make this a sweater, and I'm gonna work on making this baby's sibling matching one and hopefully give this to them soon before they outgrow them. But yeah, I really enjoyed making this, and stripes are really engaging to knit, so this is what I call the beach pullover, and hopefully I'll write up a pattern for it at one point so that I can share it with you all. Okay, so now I made another kid sweater, but it doesn't look much like it's kind of between kid and adult size because it's for my niece who's turning 10. And I really like my Stockholm sweater, which I made last year, and I wanted to make her a drop shoulder. I had made her a fair number of raglan sweaters. I had made her a cardigan earlier this year, which I don't have with me, but I had made her the step-by-step cardigan by Florence Miller. And so I wanted to try a different construction and knit something like the Stockholm sweater for her, but the Stockholm sweater gauge was not the same as what this yarn was, and so I kind of used the Stockholm sweater by Petite knit and the pattern that I have already in my library as a guide for how to make this sweater. And the yarn that I used for this was Heartland Heather by Lion brand, which is a 100% acrylic yarn, and it is so soft. It's, I would not say as like buttery as the Barocco Comfort, but it is a very soft and fluffy yarn. And so I use that using yarn that I have in stash to make this sweater for her. And I would say this is probably a size like 10 to 12, I'm not really sure, but I had 3 skeins of the maroon or burgundy color, but they were different dye lots, and so I had 2 skeins of the same dye lot, and then I had some leftover gray yarn, so I decided instead of trying to fiddle with the dye lots that I would just do kind of like trim in gray. And so hopefully she likes it. They're not the colors that she's always wearing, but she's pretty adventurous with what she wears, and so we'll see, and hopefully it fits her and everything. But this is a very cozy and hopefully will be a good sweater for her to wear this winter. Okay, so next we can start moving into pullovers that I've made for myself this year. This is the Juno sweater DK version by the Knit Purl Girl, and I test knit this for her I think I signed up for the test knit in the summer or the spring, but it wasn't due until September, so it had a very long testing period, which was nice. And I really was in the mood to make a drop shoulder sweater at the time. I think I'm just generally into drop shoulder sweaters right now, but I didn't know what the pattern was, and this came out, and when I saw that she had posted that she was looking for testers for the sweater, I thought it would be a good design, and I had yarn for it in stash, and so I decided to apply for the test knit, and she responded very kindly and said that she was looking for testers for it. So I kind of knit this over several months. It was kind of a very casual knit. It's an interesting construction because I think when you look at it, like, it has this drop shoulder design, but it's a bit more nuanced than that because it also has this slip stitch down the side of the sleeve, and it kind of, the way that the shoulder seam works is a bit more detailed than like the Stockholm sweater by Petite Knit. And so it was an interesting and engaging yoke to make. I should mention that the yarn I used for this was Kelborn Woolen Scout in the color Navy Heather, and I held a mohair with it. So I held Knitting for Olive navy blue with this, and it's a pretty good match, as you can see. I don't think the light is good enough right now, but this yarn has such a pretty heathering to it. It's kind of like a purpley red that will show up when the light shines on it the right way. And so I really like that kind of subtle variation in the yarn that shows up in specific lighting and for such a simple silhouette. So I don't think I made any modifications really to this sweater besides from, I think I knit the hem in with a larger needle because my ribbing tends to be pretty tight, and also I don't like it when the hem of my sweaters cinches in a ton. And then I also did the ribbing along the neckline actually, you know what, I think I did the hem in what the pattern had called for, but then when I wrote my feedback, I would have done it in a larger needle size. For the neckline, I did use a larger needle size, mainly because they were having issues with the back, and even this one, it kind of stands up a bit funny during the test, and so one of the suggestions had been to use larger needles or to pick up more stitches than what the pattern had called for, which is, I did both of those things. So that the neckline wouldn't be too tight and would fit a little bit better along in the neckline. So I personally really like the look of cabled sweaters, but I find that simple stockinette sweaters like this are really easy to grab and wear. And so I find myself reaching for this sweater and wearing it as much as I can, as long as it's cool enough. It is a little warm right now, but I think it's going to be perfect for wearing throughout the winter. So again, this is the Juno sweater DK version by the Purl girl, and highly recommend it if you're looking for something cozy and easy to wear. Okay, the next sweater I have is one that many of you will probably recognize. This is the Ooey Gooey sweater, or the Rhinebeck sweater that Andrea Mowry had designed for this year's New York Sheep and Wool Festival. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, but I really wanted to participate in the Ooey Gooey knit along, although I didn't actually formally participate in it, and make the Rhinebeck sweater, and I really liked this year's design as well. And so I bought yarn for this sweater pretty much as soon as the pattern came out. This is Juniper Moon Farms Patagonia in the colors, I want to say indigo, and then the lighter blue is hydrangea, and it's a circular yoke sweater, which was something new for me, as well as it is a color work yoke, which I also had not done. I've made color work mittens before, but I hadn't made anything on a larger scale using color work, and so that was a fun experience. And as you can see, I don't think I really made many modifications to the pattern except for adding length to the pattern, which I have a longer torso, as well as using a larger needle size for the ribbing, as I explained earlier. I do think with the smaller needle size, it wouldn't kind of like bunch out as much as it does, but I don't really mind it for this sweater and for my own purposes of wearing it. Something that I've noticed is that I'd never made a circular yoke sweater before, but I do tend to have broader shoulders for my frame, and so I think that circular yokes might not be the best construction for me. If I wear the sweater or I sit down and then I stand back up, there's this kind of bump that will form along the neck, and the sweater does have neck shaping, but I think it's not quite wide enough in the shoulders, which causes it to kind of like bunch up a bit if I have been in one position for a while and switch. So that's something that I've kind of discovered, but I was kind of bummed because I still want to make other circular yoke sweaters. So I think in the future what I might do is just make a larger size with broader shoulders, and then for the body what I can do is just do gradual decreases so that it doesn't end up being too blocky once I finish the yoke part. But I don't know if any of you have had issues like this in the past, or if you know of any recommendations to make a circular yoke sweater fit somebody with broader shoulders a bit better. But despite the fit kind of imperfection, I still do really love wearing the sweater. My favorite color is blue, which is probably pretty apparent now as you've seen a lot of blue already. But I do wear this, and this was a new yarn to me, and I find that it's not the softest yarn, but it is still decently soft, and I do like wearing it. It doesn't pill, which is really nice. I have found that the Scout, which is what I made my Eva cardigan with, does pill a bit, and that holding a mohair with it has helped kind of maintain the integrity of the stitches a bit better. And so that is something that I like about this yarn, is that it doesn't seem to pill as much. So as many of us know, this is the Ooey Gooey sweater by Andrea Mowry, and yeah, besides from the fit issue, which is a me problem, I really like the sweater. Okay, this is the Coffee Run sweater by Veronica Lindberg, or Kutovakika on Instagram, and this is a sweater that I had initially made for a friend, and I made that version with Cascade 220 Superwash because I wasn't quite sure and didn't want to make it a super high maintenance garment for her, so I made her something with a slightly less delicate fiber, and I loved the way that that sweater turned out. It's a pattern that is in her books Knit to Wear, which is the most recent one that has come out, and the second I saw the pattern I knew that I really wanted to make it, and I thought it would be perfect for my friend. And then when I made hers, I was really tempted to keep it, but I restrained and gave it to her because she watched my dog, and that was the least I could do. And so after I had finished making that for her, I got yarn for a sweater to make for myself. And so I hadn't used pure Gint before. I'd heard it was a bit rustic. No, that's a lie. I had used pure Gint before, but I hadn't made a full garment with pure Gint before. And so I knew that it was a bit rustic, but I wanted to still try it. I've been looking for a balance of a fiber that is soft enough for me to wear, but also wearable enough and that it doesn't pill too much. And I know that Sandnes Garden Pure Gint is like a workhorse yarn for a lot of people, so I decided to give it a try. I made this sweater using Pure Gint in the color Muskrat Melange, I think. I think it's a Petite knit colorway. Anyways, I like the way that it was kind of a coffee color, and it's for the Coffee Run sweater, so I chose it for that reason, and also wanted something that was brown. I don't wear a lot of brown, and so I wanted to try something a little different. And I do find that this yarn is definitely more rustic than a lot of the yarns I would probably lean towards wanting to buy in the store, but this yarn has really held up well, and this sweater design and the way that it fits is something, it's kind of like my Juno sweater where I just reach for it and wear it on a regular basis. I was wearing it yesterday. I wear it at least once a week. It's something that where it holds up, it wears really nicely. There is like a very slight transition period of when I put it on. I definitely notice that I'm wearing a woolier wool when I initially put it on, but it's something that my body just adjusts to with time, and then at night I put a nice cozy sweatshirt on. So I am planning on making more of these in the future, but I would highly recommend making this. I think the pattern calls for a technically a fingering weight yarn held with two strands of mohair, but I just made this using a DK weight yarn and it's worked out pretty well. So just goes to show that you can make patterns with many different options of yarn or whatever you want. And so yeah, this was the coffee run sweater, a very good staple for anyone's wardrobe, I would say. Okay, the next sweater that I have to show you is the Yoon Sweater Light by November Knits. And this is a sweater that I've been working on, I kid you not, since January, and I literally finished it like 2 days ago. It is made out of Knitting for Olive in the color Deep Petroleum for the merino, and then I held it with a Dusty Petroleum mohair, also from Knitting for Olive. And my friend had gone to Copenhagen a year and a half ago, and it was very nice of her. She bought me a sweater's quantity worth of yarn and brought it back. I was really excited. I hadn't used Knitting for Olive before, and so I call this kind of my Knitting for Olive gateway sweater because I knew that once I tried it, I would want to do it again and again and again. And I would say that's very true. And for whatever reason, I did the yoke of the sweater, I finished the body, I had the sleeve, I had one sleeve literally up until when I needed to start doing the ribbing, and I hadn't done the other sleeve, and I just had left it sitting for months and months and months. And then the other day I was trying to reorganize my yarn stuff and whatever, and I found this sweater and I was like, okay, this is going to be the next thing that I finish because I have been putting it off for way too long, and I think I finished it in a day. But needless to say, it has nothing to do with my feelings about the pattern because I really like the pattern. I love how the hem is split on the side. And the combination of the yarn is also so luxurious and so soft, and I was right because I do want to make everything in this combination now. But it is perfect now because it has a split hem, which is actually really nice because I am expecting a baby this spring, and so it is really accommodating for a changing belly and body. So I think that I will probably be living in this sweater as the months progress and everything changes, but it kind of makes me want to make another one. This is the Yoon Sweater Light, which I had modified to be a little bit more fitted. Not quite as oversized as what the pattern calls for, but I know that there are other Yoon sweater versions, and so I might make another one just because of the convenience of this high split hem. Sorry, my dog is playing. I will say that the double, the 2x2 ribbing along here knit flat, even though it's the same if you do it in the round, was a bit tedious. I remember doing back in January or whatever it was when I was doing it. But now that I have the finished object, I feel like it's worth it, so maybe I will make another one. So this is the Yoon Sweater Light by November Knits. Okay, my last pullover, I promise you, is the Staffin sweater by Rebecca Clow, or the Creabea. And she had released this pattern, I believe, in January. I had test knit the vest, but really in reality I'd really wanted to test knit the pullover, but I think, did I not get it? I don't remember. But anyways, once the pattern had come out and I knew how to make the vest and everything, I was like, I definitely want to make a pullover version of it. And this is another one of those sweaters where I finished it, and it is just, I love this sweater so much. I kind of am tempted to make another one, but I don't think it's really necessary to have two of these sweaters. This is made out of Cascade 220 in the color, I want to say Stonewash, but at the same time I'm not sure because I get the colors confused from them, so I'll double check and put it on the screen if it is wrong. I was trying to figure out how much yarn I would need for this, and so I used the pattern meterage to try and figure out how much yarn I would need, and I think I bought 6 skeins of the yarn, which was way too much. I don't think I even finished, or I don't think I even needed 4 full skeins. Maybe that's a lie. Maybe I didn't need 5 full skeins, but I ended up having way more than what I ended up buying, and so I do have some extra which I can use for something else. But because this is such a loose gauge, it's only a 16 stitch gauge, this yarn is so soft at this gauge, and I do find that it pills a bit. It doesn't bother me so much, and I do think that trying to get rid of the pills in more of a textured knit might be difficult, although I haven't tried. But this is just, I love the sweater so much. I wear it so often. It's a bit oversized, which especially right now is very convenient. And I can't say enough good things about this sweater. I really love Rebecca Clow as a designer too. And so I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a very kind of potato chippy, engaging knit, this is probably one of the better patterns to do it for. I do remember with the test knit, knitting this pattern flat was a little bit of a learning curve for me, but because the pullover is more just knit in the round, it's a little bit easier to keep track of everything. I don't think that should hold you back from knitting this pattern, just because the finished object is so worth it, at least to me. So I love this pattern so much that the Creabea decided that she was going to make some of her patterns and grade them on a kid's scale. And so she was looking for testers for a kid's version, and so when I saw that she was making a Staffin sweater kids version, I decided that I would make a mini version, and so now me and the baby will have matching Staffin sweaters. And I will say that the kids version is on a different gauge, so this is a DK weight gauge, and I used Kelborn Woolen Scout in the color Pewter Heather, I believe, for this one. And so it's not, you just follow the pattern, repeat number is slightly different. But this, I think I knit in 3 days because it's so tiny. It's supposed to be for a 1-year-old. I kind of feel like this is maybe a little small for a 1-year-old, but we will just have to let time tell and see. So this is the Staffin sweater, adult and kid size. The kid size is not released yet. I believe it's getting released later this month, maybe in a week or so. But yeah, I love this pattern. Okay, so next I'm wearing a tank top underneath this because I was wearing a tank top underneath for all of my other sweaters, so the fit is a little bit different from what it would look like if I were not wearing a tank top, obviously, but just full disclosure, I am wearing a tank top underneath this. My next kind of phase of finished objects and things that I want to show you are summer knits. And the year before, so in 2024, I got a puppy in the summer, and so the knitting stopped. It did not pause, it did not slow down, it just altogether stopped. Yarn, puppies, craziness. So I wasn't able to do summer knits then. So this past summer, I was like, I am definitely going to dive into summer knits, make t-shirts, and just really try this out. And so this past summer, I was on Instagram, the rabbit hole for patterns and inspiration and everything, and I'd seen that Airy Knits had made a Avenue tee by Tori Yu, and I instantly fell in love with this pattern. I feel like I'm definitely influenced by what other people are making. However, I would not say that I'm the type of person to instantly jump on something just because a lot of people are like it. I love this, and I think I was gonna make something else with this yarn when I got it, but then when I saw this pattern, I think I literally just cast it on immediately. And so within the pattern, it comes as kind of a package, and you can make either a V-neck version, or you can also make a crew neck version, which I made as well. It's a bit short, so I'm actually not going to try it on, but I initially made the V-neck version. I love the way it fits. I made it with Kelborn Woolen's Mojave, which is a blend of cotton and linen, and so initially when you make it, it is going to be a little bit tighter, but then as you wear it, it softens up immensely. Like, this is way softer than it was when I first finished it, but then it also like opens up a bit. Like, this is definitely bigger than it was when I initially finished it, and so that's just something to kind of keep an eye out for into account for if you use this yarn. One sec. I think this pattern technically calls for a sport weight yarn, but maybe it calls for a fingering weight yarn, but I tend to be a tight knitter, and so I think that this yarn that I used is technically a sport weight and it fits perfectly. So I kind of have learned this year that I don't really go by the weight of yarn that the pattern calls for, but more just try and figure out if my gauge is on, and as long as it is, then that's what I use. Try not to obsess over the weight of the yarn that the pattern calls for. But I have made both of these. I messed up and I thought that I used 2.5 skeins of yarn, which would be a very, very little bit of yarn. It turns out I used 3.5. And so I thought I had enough yarn to make 2 and ended up having to buy another skein. Whatever, it's fine. But I have both versions now of the Avenue tee and the V-neck and the crew neck. I will say I think I prefer the V-neck, but I might be biased by the fact that this one is a bit shorter than what I probably would prefer. I think if I wear it more though, it will lengthen a bit if I wash it a few more times. So this, I would say, might be my favorite knit of the year. I wear this shirt all the time and definitely want to make another one. I think I might make a long sleeve version of it. I know that Tori Yu is testing a DK version of a pullover of this, but I might just make a lightweight long sleeve version of this t-shirt because I love it so much. Okay, again, I'm wearing a tank top underneath the tank top, so maybe it looks a little funny, but whatever. The next thing, or next piece, summer piece that I want to show you was my Thea top, which is by Paula Strickt, I want to say. I remember I posted a picture of it and tagged the wrong designer, and then they messaged me back and were like, I think this is by a different designer. I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. Anyways, I made this. I think this is the first summer garment that I finished. I was, again, really hungry to make something meant for the summer. I was somewhere warm in the middle of the winter, and I was like, I want to bring knitting, but I don't want to bring something wool, so I decided to bring a summer garment to knit on, and this is what I was working on. I used Sandnes Garn Line in the color gray, blue, slate. I can't remember what the color was, but I bought 4 skeins of this yarn, and I bought them all in the same dye lot, but for whatever reason, you can see blocks of color in this where clearly the different skeins are slightly different. It doesn't bother me so much. I think the camera actually makes it look worse than it does in person. It doesn't stop me from wearing it. It's a pretty casual shirt. It fits really well. It was the first time that I had done a, what's it called? Provisional cast on, which was interesting. And I definitely played yarn chicken with this and was not sure if I was gonna have enough yarn. I think because, again, it's a linen and cotton blend, it's another one of those fibers that relaxes with time, and so I was worried that this was going to be too short, but I do think that over time it has stretched out a bit, and it fits the way that I like it too, and so another good summer staple. This was, I definitely think, a very good start for a summer garment to knit. So this is the Thea top. Okay, my second to last summer garment that I'm going to show you is the Seaside tee, which is actually by Cheryl Mohktari. I think that's the designer who I accidentally tagged in my last post. But this is a very popular design. It's a striped t-shirt. Obviously, I don't wear a lot of stripes, but I think my friend had made this shirt and I really liked it, so I wanted to make something similar. And so again, kind of looking for summer designs, I thought this would be a really good shirt to be able to bring around with me and knit on the train or whatever. And so I made this I bought fancy yarn for this. I used Barocco Iris, which is a blend of a bunch of different fibers, but I know it has merino, cotton, maybe it has a little yak in it, which makes it really soft, and also I think viscose. It's really, really soft. It's technically a worsted weight yarn. It's definitely a worsted weight yarn, I should say. The pattern calls for worsted weight yarn, as in Sandnes Garn Line, which in my mind is more like a DK weight yarn. And I think it's knit up on 3.5mm needles. So I will say this shirt is very heavy, and I think Probably I should have used a larger needle size for yarn of this weight. And that's kind of a lesson that I learned, but regardless, it's still I like wearing the shirt. I had modified it and done an I-cord edge along the hem, but I kept the just the 1x1 ribbing for the sleeves and the neckline, but it's a shirt that I really do enjoy wearing, and the yarn is so soft. I would highly recommend, if you want to splurge on something, using this yarn for whether it's a hat or mittens or something. It's a very luxurious yarn, and even though it's a bit of a heavy shirt, I do enjoy wearing it just because it is so soft and so cozy. So not much else to say about this pattern. I think it's kind of similar to the Avenue tee, where it's a contiguous shoulder design, which I really like because it means that you don't have to knit flat a ton. There's a little bit of neck shaping, but then you're mostly knitting in the round, which is nice. And doing stripes, you can kind of vary them as you want, but it does keep you a bit more engaged. And if you don't like stripes, you can just make it solid. So I probably will knit another one of these at more of an actual DK weight in the future, but would highly recommend this pattern as well to other people if they're looking for a fun summer shirt to knit up. Okay, so the last t-shirt that I made, it's not chronologically, but the last one I'll show you is the Moonset Tee by Ozetta. And I knit this using some yarn that I bought ages ago but hadn't used for whatever reason. This is Haiku Kobasi, which I think stands for cotton, bamboo, and silk. It's a really lightweight yarn, very soft, kind of on the edge between fingering and sport. I think it's 400 meters per 100 grams, and so it was perfect for this project because I think it technically calls for fingering weight, but again, because I'm a tight knitter, I just used a slightly heavier weight fingering weight yarn. It is a lot of stockinette in the round, so it's perfect for if you need something to work on while you're commuting, or if you have some travel, or if you're trying to talk to somebody. It's a very good knit for that. The yoke is so interesting to make. I remember the only other drop shoulder pattern I had made at that point was the Stockholm sweater, and so the back is knit in a different way. You do short row shaping, and then this whole neckline with the overlapping little piece here is made in a very clever way. And then of course the sleeves you just pick up eventually. And I modified the pattern calls for an I-cord hem as well as sleeves, but initially before I blocked this I didn't love the I-cord, and so then I decided to do something fancy or whatever and do a folded over hem. And I kind of wish I had done the I-cord bind off for the sleeves, but it doesn't bother me enough to stop me from wearing this shirt. This, again, I think it's a cotton thing, where this shirt has definitely become more relaxed as I wear it more. And it's a really soft, and I think because of the silk and the bamboo, it makes it a bit drapier than the other shirts that I made. But this is another go-to t-shirt that I like to wear, and I do find that I really have enjoyed using and wearing the summer garments that I made, and it definitely motivates me to want to make more next summer. So, or whenever, you know, you can make these things anytime you want. So it's good for layering, good for the summer, and yeah, that kind of wraps up all of my garment knits for 2025 so far. So last thing I'll do, if you're still here, is go through just quickly some of the accessories I've made. I made a couple pairs of the Hermione Everyday socks by Erica Luder. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's really easy to make. It's just a 4-row repeat. And one of my favorite things about this pattern is actually the heel, which I don't think is going to show up really well here because I think that this yarn is actually kind of felted a bit as I've worn these. It's got a really pretty heel pattern, which I should Does it show up? Doesn't really show up that well on here, but I can try and include a picture of another pair of socks that I made with the same pattern where it shows up better. I had wanted to make another pair of socks. I had this Kelburn Woolens Camper in my stash, and I thought that it would be a really nice color to kind of show off the variation in this yarn. I'll hold it up so that you can see. But this yarn, I think, is not quite as, it doesn't have quite as much meterage as like a regular sock white yarn, so these socks are a little bit denser, but they are quite warm, and I do enjoy wearing them. I found that they've held up okay. I haven't worn them a ton. I think that they don't have any nylon in them, so we'll see how well they hold up, but I do really like the way that the pattern showed up. And I know that Kelburn Woolens has this colorway in their Scout line, which is their DK. And when I saw the texture with this color, I was like, ooh, this would look really good in a cable sweater. So maybe at one point down the line, I'll make something on a larger scale with this colorway. But anyways, Hermione Everyday Socks by Erica Luter. I also made a pair of just simple mittens. This is leftover yarn that I had from my friend's coffee run sweater. So I just used a free pattern from Purl Soho. I think these are called the Arched Gusset mittens, and they're perfect for wearing while I walk my dogs, or I don't know, just am outside in the winter when it's cold and my hands get cold very fast. So nothing super special about this pattern. It's very easy, very quick, and then you get a nice pair of mittens out of it. I also made several hats last year. If you watched anything that I made, which it's okay if you didn't, I made a bunch of windchief hats, so I made myself another one this year. I made one in navy blue last year, which I really liked, but I don't know what happened to it. I moved, and I think maybe it got lost in the move or something. So I made another one. This is using Kelburn Woolens Scout in the color Pewter Heather. This is leftover yarn from the baby sweater that I made. And it's got this really cool twisted rib detailing along here, and I modify the pattern to have a folded over brim, so that's extra warm around my ears. I think I made it a little bit too short, because when I wear it, well, I guess it's okay. I still need to knit down the edge, but anyways, it looks a little silly probably right now, especially with the t-shirt, but whatever. You can see how it looks, and this is also a really quick pattern to wear or to knit up. I don't remember how much it costs, but if you make multiple, you easily are paying for the pattern as you make more, and they're perfect for gift knits. So would highly recommend that. I self-drafted a little baby hat. We'll see. I didn't really use much of a reference for what would fit. It's supposed to be for a newborn. It seems a bit tall for a newborn. When I finished it, my husband asked me if I made it for myself, so that explains the sizing, although I do have a small head, so I guess time will also tell if this fits, but hopefully he can wear it when it is actually appropriate to be wearing a knit hat. I used Kelburn Woolens Perennial, which is a sock yarn that they have, and I held it double, and this is a really soft yarn. Like, this is it's definitely a pricier yarn, so it's not something that I would specifically buy for baby knits, but because I had some in stash, I figured that it would be good and really nice and soft for a baby, and hopefully it'll fit the baby, so we'll see. Okay, let's see. Second to last, I self-drafted a little cable hat. I think many people are in the phase of trying to de-stash a bunch of their yarn, and or just use up a bunch of their yarn and stash, and it's very easy for it to build up. And so I have been trying to also do that, and so I had a little bit of this Lion Brand Heartland in the Mount Rainier, which is a gray tweed yarn, which I liked. It kind of reminds me of like Fun Betty, because it's got all this rainbow tweed in it. And I had made a pullover for my niece several years ago when I had just started making sweaters, And she's since outgrown it, but I still have a little left over of that yarn, and I know that she really liked it, and so I made her a cable hat, which I will pair with her pullover that she can wear and hopefully stay nice and warm this winter. So I am hoping to, I kind of just did a very simple ribbed slash cabled pattern here. And then for the crown, I kind of just made it up as I went, but I can kind of remember what I did. So I was thinking I would just write this up really quickly and maybe put it up as like a little pattern on Ravelry so that other people can do it, because I think that this is also a really good gift knit and other people could potentially use it for kids or adult knits, I would say. So this is just, I call it the confetti cable hat, but we shall see what I call it later on. And then lastly, I made a pair of mittens for myself. This is, I call them the hummingbird mittens, but they're technically called the sweet nectar mitts by Tannis Fiber Arts. And I used Patagonia, Juniper Moon Farms Patagonia, using the leftover yarn from my Ooey Gooey sweater to make these mittens. And the really cool thing about these mittens is that when you hold them up like this, it looks like the bird is drinking from the flower, if I have that orientation right. And they look really intricate, and the way that the pattern pops, especially with two solid contrast colors, looks really dramatic. I had made a pair of these actually at the beginning of the year from my mom, but I had chosen colors that didn't contrast enough, so the pattern doesn't pop quite as well as it does with these. And so I wanted to make another pair for myself so that I could wear them this winter. And that is really when contrast, the importance of contrast and everything, clicked in my brain. For whatever reason it took that long. And so I made another pair of these for my aunt using, again, two contrasting solid colors, and I've since given them to her, but I'll include a picture of them so you can see. But that pretty much wraps up my year of knitting so far. I'm just staring at a pile of a lot of knit garments over there that I'm going to need to fold up and store away after this, but it's been a really good year of knitting, I would say. It's felt really long. I had been living in Vermont at the beginning of the year and then moved down to Massachusetts, and life has been pretty crazy lately, and so I was actually kind of surprised that I had finished as much as I had, but I really like knitting because you can kind of do it anywhere and you can do it at your own pace. If life gets too crazy, you don't have to keep on doing it. You can go pick it back up. It's a nice source of, I would say, peace, but also it brings you a lot of joy, or brings me a lot of joy. So I've really appreciated having it as an activity to do this year. So we'll see. I'm hoping that the next video I put out is not my everything I knit in 2026 video, but we'll see what happens. I'm thinking of maybe filming a couple podcasts between now and then, hopefully. But if you'd like to see, I do post on Instagram, and my handle is Black Dog Knits. And otherwise, just I hope that you enjoyed this video, and thanks for sticking around. I hope you have a nice holiday season, and we'll see you around. Thanks. Bye.